If anxiety has ever made you question who you are, you're not alone. To my subscribers, welcome back. But for those of you that are new, hi, my name is Ashley. I'm a mental health expert and I help Christians heal their anxiety using Christ centered neuroscience without the typical just pray more advice. If you've ever said, I am an anxious person, this video will completely change how you see yourself. All of my life, I've struggled with anxiety and it literally became a part of my identity. That's exactly why I want to walk you through 3 shifts that completely changed how I talk about my anxious experiences, thereby allowing me to actually reduce and decrease my anxiety. Let's dive in. The first shift is that anxiety is something you experience. It is not a character description. It is not who you are. And the temptation to actually make anxiety more part of your identity is greater now than probably any other time because more people are experiencing anxiety. And within my own experiences and also hearing this from others, there are people that have expressed to me in a very short time frame that they have anxiety and I don't even know much about them. I may not even know their last name, but I know they have anxiety. That is major. This is something that we are revealing and sharing with people sooner. And it's understandable because there's more conversation around mental health. This is a popular topic in comparison to what it used to be. So the conversation is great, but if within the first 10, 15 minutes you're meeting people and you're letting them know that you experience anxiety, then that means anxiety is probably creeping up into your identity. So if somebody comes up to you and they ask you who you are, anxious should not be one of those descriptions. Please don't let it define you because once you do, you're automatically putting yourself in this tiny little box that will be very, very hard to get out of. So don't even put yourself in that position in the first place. But if you've already let it define you, like I did, it just means that you need to do some reworking of how you view yourself and how you're describing yourself. Anxiety really becomes a part of our identity because it is constantly there with you. And then gradually you start to use the language to describe yourself because you don't see the possibility of change. So therefore, you start to refer to yourself as an anxious person. You say, oh, this is just the way I am. This is how my personality is. This is my disposition. And so you latch on to this when that's really not what's going on here. All of those things are not reflective of what anxiety or anxiety disorders actually are. It is not something that has to be with you to this magnitude. The other thing I want to say about this shift is oftentimes we also make our emotions a part of our identity. And so even though anxiety is not an emotion, it comes with emotions. So you'll end up seeing that the way people look at emotions is also the same way they look at anxiety. If you believe that your emotions are bigger than your identity or anything else, like if your emotions are the most important thing to you and you are the most loyal to them, it is going to make you susceptible to making anxiety your identity because you're also probably going to make your emotions your identity. Now, the problem with this is that emotions fluctuate. Because anxiety does not have as much fluctuation as emotions, then people will say, oh, well, my anxiety is constant, so it's a part of my identity. No, it is not. You are bigger than any emotion or state you feel. Yes, we are emotional beings, but that is not the only thing that you should be using to inform the way you're living life. Everything should not be based on your emotions. Please, please, please do not base everything on your emotions. They rise, they peak, they fall, but your identity, it stays constant. Sometimes we can use scripture, we can use mantras, we can use quotes, we can use books and a whole bunch of other stuff to justify the fact that anxiety is a part of our identity. It's confirmation bias. You're seeking for something to validate your thoughts. A lot of people like to quote a particular verse, Proverbs 23:7, which says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And people like to use that to talk about law of attraction and how much our thoughts have influence over us. But I want to challenge you all with this common understanding, because if you actually look at the whole Proverbs 23, you can tell that this was taken out of context and misused. This was really misinterpreted. Solomon is actually referring to not taking food from selfish, deceptive people, basically warning about discerning character and motives in others. If you think anxiety is a part of your identity, you're going to seek out things like Proverbs 23:7 and say, oh, look at it. It says that I think this and so I am this. No, just because you're thinking anxious thoughts or you're thinking a certain way about yourself or you're experiencing self doubt, that does not mean that's who you are. In this shift, you have to start looking at anxiety differently and not identify it as a personality trait, flaw, or some other descriptor. You have to challenge that thought and really repeat and reiterate it for yourself so that you understand that anxiety is not a key part of your identity. Repeat after me. This is not me. This is not who I am. Stop claiming it. Stop taking it on. Evaluate how you are defining anxiety and if you are letting it indeed define you. Let's move on to the second shift. The second shift is about the importance of language and phrasing. This is really all about being very careful with your words. If you really stop and reflect on it, what types of words are you using during the day? This is something that all of us need to work on because this is such an area that could be easily neglected. We go through the day and we don't think about what we're saying, how we're saying it, and how we're referring to ourselves. Words come out, they get used, and words have power, and we're not aware of what we are saying when we make a phrase like, I'm an anxious person. The nervous system is always listening. It is listening to everything you say. So when you say, I am an anxious person, nervous system is hearing that. It's storing it and it says, oh yeah, this is who we are. And so next time it comes up, this is who you are. And then it keeps going. It becomes a loop. And now this is really cemented in your thinking and in your brain. So in this shift, this is really about learning how to be careful and intentional about the words that you are using to describe your anxiety. You have to start changing the way that you talk about anxiety. And so that means finding other phrases or other statements that you can say instead of, I am an anxious person. So, for example, you might say, I am anxious right now. If you notice, I added the right now part. And the reason is because it communicates to your brain that this is just what we're experiencing at this moment. We don't need to be anxious 2 or 3 days down the line. Because if you say, I am anxious all day, guess what? You're going to be anxious all day. You've already set the tone. You done told the nervous system that this is what we're going to do all day. It's going to hear you. It's going to listen. It's going to take that mental note. And you're going to be anxious all day. And you're not going to know why. So those examples really show how sensitive our nervous system actually is to language. So even the details of what you're saying towards the end of the statement is also very much important as what you were saying in the beginning of the statement. Some other phrases that you can use are, I am experiencing anxiety. I am feeling nervous, feeling worked up about something. And so as you notice with the examples, they are removing the ownership of the anxiety and starts to create some of that separation. And if you are really having a hard time practicing this, literally describe what's happening in the moment. So you might say, I feel shaky right now. My mind is moving fast right now. The Bible talks a lot about the importance of words and having caution and care. We have to be really careful about the language that we're using towards ourselves because a lot of times we're more careful with the language that we're using towards other people. Scripture talks about how the perverse tongue crushes the spirit and that we should keep watch over the door of our lips and have a guard over our mouths. Just really emphasizing that words can have lasting consequences. Assign them to your experience, don't assign them to you. The last shift is separating yourself from anxious thoughts or your anxious experiences. So, this is really about creating distance. Let me explain how you can actually do this, because I know a lot of you are thinking right now, how do you create distance from something that is internal? This is about detachment and seeing anxiety as external or outside of you, really just getting them in front of you instead of getting caught up in the fact that it is going on within you. And there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can visualize. So you're observing the anxiety as if you would observe any other object. There's an animated movie, Inside Out 2, that does a really great job with this. So you can identify your own version of that and your own character of anxiety and know it is something apart from you. One great way to separate yourself from anxious thoughts is to actually journal. It's a very simple way to get you separated from your anxious thoughts and your anxious experiences. This shift is important because separating and detaching yourself from your anxiety actually creates control. It also reinforces that anxious experiences are learned habits, which means that they can be unlearned. It's neuroplasticity, which basically means that we can always make new connections in our brains. We are able to keep learning. So don't feel like these things are so fixated in you or so ingrained in you. No, the way that you approach your anxiety can be unlearned, and you can learn simple, effective, and powerful strategies that are actually going to give you the results that you are looking for. The other great thing about separating and detaching yourself from anxiety is it allows you to actually explore other aspects of your identity. Because anxiety is no longer a part of your identity, you get to branch out and expand how you view yourself. Those are the three shifts that you're going to put in place so that anxiety is no longer your identity. I'm very grateful to no longer have that label on me, because honestly, it's very limiting and exhausting. And that's exactly why I'm offering this new opportunity, especially because I know it was twice as hard to do this work by myself, and that it would have been much easier and more helpful if I had someone personally guide me through that process one on one. Everything I have learned and implemented for myself and what I've poured into people, I have been able to craft this into a very unique experience called the Unmask Heal and Rise Premium Coaching Program. I would personally love to invite you all into this. This is a limited time opportunity to work with me more closely one on one before I release the full program publicly. I may not offer this one to one attention when we do this official launch. So, if that's what you're needing right now, someone to really hold your hand and give you that guidance and undivided attention so that you can really see the progress and go from constant anxiety to it being so quick that it is not even a problem for you anymore. I would love to see that happen for you. I would be so happy to walk that journey with you and see you at the end standing there with the results. If you're thinking deeply about this or if you're serious about making this change, you can schedule a free call with me at the link in the description. If you're needing guidance, accountability, support, help, I would personally love to meet you and talk with you about the achievements that you can make in the next few months. In the meantime, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.